Hello everyone, my name is Amiel and today I am going to cover about the American Civil War and Abraham Lincoln's life. Abraham Lincoln was born in the year 1809 and when Lincoln was a young boy, a tragedy struck him. His mother died, and when Lincoln was 7 in 1816, his father moved to Indiana, and then his father married another woman and then moved his last family to Illinois. When Abraham Lincoln had become older to move away from his family, he did just that, and he worked various jobs and worked as a senator from Illinois. And in the 1860 election, Lincoln had won by a landslide and the American Civil War began. The first state to secede was South Carolina, followed by 10 other states. Only 4 slave states remained loyal to the Union. And then in the new Confederate capital of I'm not going to tell you the Confederate capital was Richmond and the Union capital was Washington DC, and a single state had to ruin it before all this happened. When California entered the US as the 31st state, it became a free state, means a state that did not have slavery. Slavery was the act of owning people and making them to do jobs without payment. It was very evil and barbaric. Many families were torn apart and 4 million people were enslaved. In the first war, which was the start of the American Civil War, some Confederates shooted at an air base at Charleston, South Carolina. It was the start of the Civil War, but many people also considered it to be the end of the Civil War, and they hoped Lincoln would just say, okay, you win, you can secede. But Lincoln actually said, you're about to get a roundhouse to the face. And then at the start, things were not looking too good for the Union until General Ulysses S. Grant came in and started attacking like crazy. And Lincoln ordered some generals to go and attack Richmond. First he asked General George McClellan, who would later run for president against Abraham Lincoln in the 1865 election. He was asked to go and attack Richmond, and McClellan was very weird, so he got beaten very badly by General Lee Cooper. And fast forward a few years, both sides used ironclads to attack each other for naval wars, and the north of the US were very scared that Europe might intervene on the south side, because the Europeans were not having that precious supply of cotton due to the Union blockade. But if the northern part of the United States showed that they were going to do something like ending slavery, they were going to be like, not our problem, and would be out of it, and then the North would easily win. And then Lincoln asked another guy to go and attack Richmond, but General Lee thought that if he could just threaten DC militarily, he would just win. The northern morale was down and the southern morale was up. And then fast forward another few years, General Ulysses S. Grant was the only one scoring victories, and he loved whiskey, and he was going to go and attack Vicksburg, and after a month-long siege on the city of Vicksburg, it finally fell and the Mississippi was taken, cutting the Confederates into, and better enough, it was the 4th of July. So they just partied. So then after some time, Abraham Lincoln chose a general called Mr. Meade Turtle, and he ordered him to go and attack Richmond, and General Lee started attacking through the north, and the single bloodiest battle of the single bloodiest day in the entire history of the United States, the Battle of Antietam, which the North won, and then General Lee went to go and threaten DC militarily because that was the only way he think they would win. So he actually attacked into the north, and the second bloodiest day of the Civil War happened. The Battle of Gettysburg, and it was a northern victory thanks to General Meade's help. The entire city of Gettysburg turned into a hospital for wounded men, and even Abraham Lincoln himself went to the city in the famous Gettysburg Address. And then again, fast forward a few years, the North was about to win, and after the South surrendered, the North was still scared, so they occupied the Confederate States, and they allowed Confederate generals to enter life in the new Union. And I forgot to tell you one thing. General Ulysses S. Grant just karate kicked Prague back into Georgia. And after the defeat of the Confederacy, Abraham Lincoln went to a Ford's Theater. He didn't celebrate, he didn't gloat, but he just went to the Ford's Theater and was laughing hysterically in reaction to the show. And in the president's booth was John Wilkes Booth, who shot Abraham Lincoln at point blank range, and for 8 hours he was in a coma. And in the next day at 7:22 a.m., all his family members were crying as he had died. And 11 days later, John Wilkes Booth was killed in a gunfight. And later amendments like the 14th and 15th Amendment would pass on to stop slavery. But the actual one to start human rights was John F. Kennedy 100 years later. And most people's favorite US president is Abraham Lincoln. They even made a memorial for him, and he is one of the 4 faces in Mount Rushmore, which is in Pierre, South Dakota. Thank you.